I returned from a business trip and went straight to our favorite restaurant. I wanted to surprise my wife. But when I saw her at a table with another man, holding her hand, the world suddenly changed. I didn't make a scene. I just smiled and started playing my game. I stopped the car outside Bellissimo, our favorite Italian restaurant on the corner of 5th and Main. The evening air carried the scent of early autumn, crisp and promising. 6 years of marriage to Laura, and this place still held all our milestones: first date, engagement dinner, every anniversary. Tonight was supposed to be another surprise, another memory. I'd cut my San Francisco trip short by 2 days, eager to see her face light up when I walked through the door. The hostess smiled in recognition. "Mr. Reynolds. We weren't expecting you tonight. Your usual table. Actually, is my wife here?" I wanted to surprise her. Her smile faltered for just a moment. "Oh, yes. She's at your corner table." Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. I nodded my thanks and walked toward our spot, the intimate corner table partially obscured by a decorative wine rack. The familiar path felt suddenly foreign, each step heavier than the last. And then I saw them. Laura sat with her back to me, her honey blonde hair catching the candlelight. Across from her, a man I'd never seen before leaned in close, his hand covering hers on the table. They weren't just talking. They were connected, intimate in a way that made my blood freeze. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, a gesture so casual it could only come from familiarity. Time suspended. The restaurant noise faded to a distant hum. I should have walked over. I should have demanded answers. Instead, I stood motionless, watching my life unravel in real time. When he leaned forward and kissed her, something inside me shifted. The shock crystallized into something colder, more calculated. I quietly stepped back, nodded to the confused hostess, and walked out. In my car, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront. I wouldn't rage. I would observe. Learn. And then I would act. Laura and I had built everything together since college: our home in the Boston suburbs, our marketing consultancy that had grown from a kitchen table startup to a respected boutique agency with 20 employees and a downtown office. Perfect partnership, perfect marriage. Or so I thought. That night, I checked into the Hyatt downtown instead of going home. I needed space to think. The next morning, I called Laura. "Hey babe," she answered, her voice warm and normal. "How's San Francisco? Landing that Peterson account?" "All wrapped up," I said, matching her tone. "Meetings went better than expected. I might be home early." "That's great." Was that a hesitation? "I'm swamped here, but I can't wait to see you." "Miss you," I said. "Miss you more," she replied, and I wondered how she could say it so convincingly. I spent the day in our company's office, reviewing accounts, contracts, emails, anything that might give me insight into what was happening. Everything seemed normal on the surface. Our CFO, Melissa, greeted me with surprise. "Thought you were on the West Coast until Friday." "Finished early," I said casually. "Hey, anything unusual come across your desk lately? New accounts, unusual expenses?" She shrugged. "Nothing stands out. Although Laura did ask me to prepare some documents for the Meridian account last week. Said you two were restructuring how it's managed." My pulse quickened. The Meridian account was our biggest client, worth nearly 40% of our annual revenue. Did she say why? Something about separate account management teams. She had me draft new contracts. "I figured you knew about it." "Of course," I lied. "Just checking all the boxes." That afternoon, I visited our company's law firm under the pretense of updating my will. James Finley had been handling our business affairs for years. "While I'm here," I said after we'd finished the will paperwork, how's that Meridian restructuring coming along? James looked confused. Which part? The ownership transfer or the account management? My heart stopped. Both. Just doing my due diligence. He pulled up some files on his computer. Well, the transfer of 50% ownership from your personal holding to Laura's separate entity is almost complete. She brought in the signed documents last week. My signature? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Yes, right here. He turned the screen toward me. It was my signature. A perfect forgery on documents I'd never seen. I nodded calmly. And the Meridian account? Being transferred to the new subsidiary company, LR Consulting. That should be finalized by the end of the month. A company I'd never heard of. A company with her initials. Perfect, I said, standing. Could you email me copies of everything? I seem to have misplaced mine. That night, I checked our personal finances. $5,000 had been transferred from our joint account to an unknown account number. When I accessed our credit card statements, I found charges for hotel rooms on nights when Laura had claimed to be visiting her sister in New Hampshire. The next morning, I received James's email with all the documents. The meticulous plan was laid bare. Laura had been systematically preparing to leave me, taking half our company in our biggest client with her. The man at the restaurant wasn't just an affair, he was her partner in this, a business associate listed as co-owner of LR Consulting. Michael Layton, according to the paperwork. I closed my laptop, a strange calm settling over me. 6 years of marriage, 8 years of business partnership, and a lifetime of trust, all undermined by careful, calculated betrayal. Two could play that game. I returned home that evening, acting as if I'd just arrived from the airport. Laura greeted me with a hug and kiss that felt hollow now. How was your flight? She asked, helping me with my bags. Smooth, I said. How've you been keeping busy? She launched into stories about client meetings and dinner with her sister, lies I now recognized. I nodded, smiled, and played along. That night as she slept beside me, I began formulating my plan. It would take precision, patience, and perfect timing. The next morning, I called an old friend from law school who specialized in forensic accounting. Derek, I need a favor, off the books. I think someone's trying to commit fraud against my company. Not the pleasant Laura? He asked, surprised. Not her. But I need to check everyone and everything. Within days, he confirmed what I already knew and found more. Laura had been siphoning small amounts from various company accounts for months, building a nest egg while planning her exit. I met with our bank manager privately, explaining concerns about unusual activity in our accounts. Security measures were quietly enhanced, requiring dual authorization for any transfers over $1,000. Next, I contacted each of our major clients personally, under the guise of a satisfaction survey, strengthening relationships and subtly confirming their points of contact. When the Meridian CEO mentioned your wife's proposal to shift the account, I expressed enthusiasm while making a mental note. I hired a private investigator who documented Laura's meetings with Michael Layton, their dinners, their visits to a small office space they'd rented under LR Consulting. For 3 weeks, I lived a double life, devoted husband by night, meticulous investigator by day. Laura never suspected, her own deception making her blind to mine. Then came her next move. I was thinking, she said over dinner at home, we should celebrate everything we've accomplished. A special dinner, just the two of us. That sounds perfect, I said, recognizing the setup. Our anniversary is coming up anyway. She smiled. I was thinking this Friday. At Bellissimo. I've already made reservations. I matched her smile. I can't wait. Friday arrived, and I prepared carefully, dressing in Laura's favorite suit, her anniversary gift from last year. Before leaving, I made one final call to Derek. Everything set? All done this afternoon, he confirmed. The moment those documents are filed Monday morning, the transfer reversal goes into effect. We've got statements from the bank confirming no authorization was given. The signature expert's report is conclusive, forgery. All your access has been restored, and hers has been suspended pending investigation. And the new account structure? Documented as fraud. The DA has everything they need if you want to press charges. I arrived at Bellissimo right on time. Laura was already there, radiant in a new dress, champagne waiting on the table. To us, she toasted when I sat down. And to new beginnings. I clinked my glass against hers. New beginnings indeed. She talked animatedly through appetizers, her excitement barely contained. I recognized the signs now, the frequent glances at her phone, the practiced sincerity in her voice. She was preparing to drop the bomb. Between the main course and dessert, she reached for my hand. David, I've been thinking about our future. Me too, I said softly. We've built something amazing together. Her eyes held mine, earnest and false. But I think it's time for some changes. What kind of changes? I asked, playing my part. She squeezed my hand. I think we should separate, personally and professionally. I've outgrown what we have. I need something different. I nodded slowly, as if absorbing a shocking revelation rather than confirming what I'd known for weeks. You've met someone else. Her eyes widened slightly, surprised by my calm, not by my awareness. Yes. It wasn't planned, David. It just happened. And the business? I asked. Have you thought about that? She relaxed slightly, moving into familiar territory. I think a clean break is best. I've drawn up papers for a 50-50 split. It's fair, considering how much work I've put in. I took a sip of wine, letting the moment stretch. And Meridian? LR Consulting? Were those just things that happened too? The color drained from her face. How did you? No. I finished for her. I've known for weeks, Laura. Every document, every meeting, every lie. I know all of it. She recovered quickly, her expression hardening. It doesn't matter. The papers are signed. It's legally binding. I smiled and pulled out my phone, opening an email. You mean these papers? With the forged signature? The ones that have been flagged for fraud investigation? She glanced at the screen, then back at me, calculation replacing shock. You can't prove anything. I don't need to. The bank already froze the transfers. The signature analyst's report is conclusive. And as of 30 minutes ago, your access to all company accounts has been revoked pending investigation. Her hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. You're bluffing. Check your phone. Try to log in. She did, her face crumpling as she was denied access. This won't work, David. I'll fight it. With what money? The funds you transferred have been returned. The new company has no legitimate contracts. And Meridian has been fully briefed about the attempted theft of their account. Her voice lowered to a hiss. You'll regret this. Michael has connections. Michael Layton is already distancing himself. When I showed him the potential criminal charges, he was quite eager to provide information about who orchestrated everything. The waiter approached with dessert, and we fell silent. When he left, Laura leaned forward, desperation edging into her voice. We can work this out. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. I stood and placed my napkin on the table. Goodbye, Laura. Where are you going? Panic now, as her carefully constructed plan disintegrated. Home. I'm keeping the house, it's in my name only, if you recall. You have until tomorrow to collect your personal belongings. Anything left will be donated. I walked out, her calls following me. Outside in the cool evening air, the weight of 6 years lifted from my shoulders. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek, all systems go. She's completely locked out. 3 months later, I sat alone at that same corner table in Bellissimo. The company had recovered, Meridian had signed a new 3-year contract, and Laura's attempt to sue for her rightful share had been dismissed with prejudice once the evidence of fraud was presented. The hostess approached with a bottle of wine. "Compliments of the gentleman at the bar," she said. I looked over to see Michael Layton raising his glass in a sardonic toast. I nodded acknowledgement as he walked over. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. I gestured to the empty chair. "She used me too, you know," he said after ordering. "I was just a means to an end. And now?" He shrugged. "Now she's in Chicago, trying to rebuild. Last I heard, she was working entry-level at some marketing firm." "Why are you here, Michael?" He studied his glass. "Closure, maybe. Or to say I understand why you did what you did." He paused. "She would have done the same to me eventually." I didn't respond. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "The revenge?" I considered the question as I looked around the restaurant where everything had begun and ended. "It wasn't revenge," I said finally. "It was justice." He nodded slowly and stood to leave. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry for my part in it." I watched him walk away, feeling neither satisfaction nor regret. Just the hollow echo of what might have been, and the quiet certainty that some betrayals can never be forgiven, only calculated, countered, and closed. The restaurant continued around me, filled with couples trading truths and lies across candlelit tables, none aware of how quickly it could all unravel, or how coldly the pieces could be put back together again.